Hello, everyone. So today I'll be going over the grant writing essentials. So the agenda for this webinar will look through researching funding opportunities, the actual grant application, building a case for support, writing an effective proposal, packaging the proposal and writing effectively, and some of the central components of what funders are looking for, followed by a question period. So to begin, with regard to researching funding opportunities, there are several databases that you can use to search for prospective funders, private foundations, and the criteria that they're looking for. So some of the databases are paid resources, such as Imagine Canada's Grant Connect and the Fund Tracker by AJHA. But there are also free databases and directories that you can use, including Charity Village's Funders Directory and using the Advanced Charity Search through the Canada Revenue Agency. With regard to the Canada Revenue Agency, you are able to see the donations and funds that foundations have previously provided in their profile. Um, so it is a very helpful resource. And you can also set criteria parameters based on your sectors and also geographic location. And finally, there's also the Community Foundations of Canada database, which would be very helpful for looking for locally based foundations within your communities. So when researching prospective funding opportunities or funders, identify direct links between your organization and the prospective funder. So these include foundations that are strictly focused in your area of interest or expertise, that they fund within your geographic area, as some funders have specific geographic areas that they focus on. Additionally, there are funders who also specific target populations. For instance, you might find funders that only look at youth, for instance, or look at Aboriginal communities, for instance. And the other thing that you should also look for is match your funding requests with the mandate of the funding organization. Additionally, some other things to consider is the size of a funder. So mid-size donors without full-time staff usually favor local groups and give smaller grants. This can be as small as $2,000, for instance, to say 10,000. Then you have larger funders with full-time staff that will have set criteria and procedures, and these are usually larger foundations or even government agencies, such as the Ontario Trillium Foundation. And of course, because they provide larger amounts of money, the competition is stiffer than with smaller or mid-size donors. So there are several ways that you can approach or start applying for funding. One is directly through an application that has set questions, which I'll discuss shortly. If a funder doesn't have a specific application form, the course of action is usually through what is called a letter of intent. It's also called a letter of inquiry or letter of interest. And what this is it's it's basically a mini proposal which contains the key points of the project that you're requesting funding for, and it's also a way for you to introduce the organization to the funder. So it should be short and sweet. It shouldn't be longer than 2 pages, and it should provide an overview of the organization, its history, the programs that the organization runs, and of course the key components of the project for which you're requesting funding. An important aspect with the letter of interest is the question of why, and that is to say, why is your project important and why should the funder fund the project? So that's an important component of this letter of interest. Additionally, your letter of intent should answer the questions of what would the impact be of the project? What would be the impact with regard to not only your organization and your constituents, but also the larger community? And then, of course, also answer the question of what are the objectives of this project. Now, with regard to the letter of intent, um, sometimes funders will then provide you with a formal application form, um, or will invite you to, or will invite you to submit a formal, fuller proposal. Um, with regard to the grant application, there are common areas or common questions that you'll see in a formal grant application, whether it's through large government granting agencies such as the Trillion Foundation, or whether it's with smaller private family-owned foundations. You'll come across common questions within these applications. So one of them will be to describe the history of your organization, and that entails what your organization's mission and mandate is. What is your organization's program or project idea? Why is the proposed project important? What is your organizational background and history and expertise with regard to carrying out the proposed project? What is the timeline of the project? Where will it take place? Who will be involved? How will the project benefit the organization, your stakeholders, and of course the larger community? And of course, the financial aspect is how much does the project cost? And a lot of applications will ask you to provide a budget breakdown as part of your application and proposal. And there's also another component that you'll find is how will you evaluate the results or the impact of the project. So this will entail determining evaluation methods for your organization to track the progress of your project. So with regard to proposals which you will have to write out yourself without a formal grant application, it's very similar to the letter of intent and the answers to the questions you would provide in a grant application. So the key questions to consider when you're writing up a formal proposal are: is there a compelling need? What is the scope and significance of the problem that you are trying to address? Who are you trying to help? What is the geographic range of the project? Where will it take place? Can you evaluate the benefits? And also conversely, how will you evaluate the benefits and impact? Are you working to solve a problem that is a large priority in your organization or in the community at large? And of course, another important aspect for building a case is how are you and your organization uniquely qualified to carry out the project? So components of a strong proposal, which I'll go one by one, is the cover letter, executive summary, the needs statement or statements, the objectives of the project, the implementation methods, that is, how are you going to implement the project, the qualifications, funder recognition, evaluation, and of course, the budget. So with regard to the cover letter, it's very much similar to the letter of intent. So it should contain the main points of your proposal. It should express your needs clearly and concisely. It should be compelling, and you should be using an active and positive, using an active voice and positive language. With regard to the executive summary, it should summarize, again, similar to both the cover letter and letter of interest. It should summarize the main points of the proposal in a succinct and concise manner. It should highlight the organization's needs while also promoting interest in the project. Another important aspect that should be focused on with regard to the proposal is the needs statement or statements. It should demonstrate your organization's knowledge of the issue and problem that you're addressing. It should also demonstrate how your organization's idea or project represents the best solution to the problem that you're addressing. It should identify the beneficiaries of the project in economic, geographic, and social terms. It should also, of course, be linked strongly to the interest and mandate of the funding agency or foundation. And it should also provide some background research, quantitative and both qualitative, such as facts and statistics. And should also demonstrate how your project and your organization is unique and is different from others. How is it innovative would be a question to consider. So with regard to the objectives, this of course should include the expected goals, outcomes, and results that you're trying to achieve through the project. Now, the objectives should also be practical and attainable. Try not to overpromise to a funder. And it, of course, should also demonstrate the positive impacts. What will the positive result be from your project? And tied in with the objectives is to describe the ways you will achieve your expected goals and objectives. And of course, it should demonstrate an understanding of the steps and the challenges to achieving those objectives. With regard to qualifications, you should mention and discuss your organization's abilities and skills to carry out a project. And this could include describing previous programs or existing programs that you've carried out. You can highlight past achievements and the organization's capacity to achieving objectives through your existing or past programs or projects. Additionally, you should mention the key personnel who will carry out the project and their track records for meeting out project deliverables. And in this part of your proposal, it should also include the resources that the resources that are available and needed to carry out the project successfully. With regard to funder recognition, many funders would, of course, like to be recognized, but you should first determine whether funders would actually like to be publicly recognized, because some funders may prefer to be silent partners, for instance. So determine whether funders would like to be recognized and in what ways before you actually implement a recognition plan. Regarding the evaluation aspect, this is a section for you to section of the plan to measure your project's progress, the impact, and how to section for you to plan to measure progress, the impact, and how to achieve objectives. It should be well thought out as well thought out and effective evaluation methods will lend additional credibility to your proposal. It'll show that you have thought through all the risks, the challenges with regard to the project. So the evaluation plan will help monitor the progress of projects more closely, and it will show prospective funders that you have the capacity and the willingness to track and quantify your organization's effectiveness in carrying out this project. And the final component for any proposal is the financial aspect, and that is the budget. So this should include a detailed overview of how and where the funding will be used. So it should be a detailed breakdown of which areas the money will go to and how it will be used. Many funders will also ask for audited financial statements as part of a formal proposal. So that is something to consider when applying for grants. So when you are in the writing stages, of course, there are key elements to packaging and writing your proposal effectively. So speak in the active rather than the passive voice. Keep the message positive. Describe the social aspect or the human element of the project. So again, that central questions, who will benefit from your project and what will the impact be in the community? Another aspect to be mindful of is to avoid jargon and overly technical language. Those who are evaluating your proposal may not necessarily be experts in the field, so avoid the technical language and in order to communicate clearly. Additionally, you should use concrete examples such as statistics or research studies, for instance, to back up your argument or to back up your project. And of course, finally, proofread and edit before sending your application out, because that is quite important. So what exactly are funders looking for? So there are many different criteria that funders are looking for, but there are common funding assessments when funders are looking at your project. So that includes the nature, quality, and impact of the program in the community. how does the project benefit the community? What will the benefit be to the community? So, of course, um, the project not just within your organization and within your immediate constituents, but how will it be impactful for outside of your organization with regard to the community? Funders are also looking for a demonstration that the project is well thought out, so that it isn't a last minute proposal, that some considerable time has been spent to think through the project and develop the project. Also looking for the organizational expertise and capacity to carry out the project. So they're looking for some of those questions would be, what has the organization done previously? Who are the people involved? What is the level of expertise, for instance? And of course, funders are also looking for a return on investment. How many people will benefit from the grant, and how will your organization benefit in the long term? And conversely, how will the funder benefit from providing your organization or your project funding? And finally, funders are also looking at sustainability. How will your organization become more sustainable after the funding period? So that is a question to consider in your proposal is, what will the money mean for your organization in the long term? How will it make your project or your program or your organization more sustainable in the future? So that covers the presentation. The MDAO, through the affiliate program, is willing to assist you with editing and writing your grant applications or proposals. The MDAO is also happy to provide you with a letter of support for your project when you are submitting an application or a funding proposal. So please let us know so we can assist. And should you have any questions, feel free to um, contact us. So as for next steps in this grant writing process is for you as an organization to identify prospective funders within your community. So identify the criteria and the application procedures or processes required, and also to start developing that project proposal after you've studied the criteria and application process of the funder that you have identified. And as I said, the MDO is willing to provide assistance and support to our affiliates. So again, as I said, assistance with editing, writing, and wordsmithing, and of course also providing a letter of support for your application and proposal. So thank you very much. I hope this was helpful. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. So thank you very much and good luck.